Hello my dear friends, I'm Dr. Vaishali Bharambe, Professor Anatomy. Today we are learning how to draw sections of medulla oblongata. First section will be at the level of pyramidal decussation, the next at the level of sensory decussation, and the last at the level of open medulla. So take some color pencils, a nice drawing sheet, and let's begin. The first section we are going to draw is section at the level of pyramidal decussation. Come. Begin your drawing by drawing two such bumps. Now in the front, draw two such swellings which are basically your pyramids, and now join these in the form of a swelling that somewhat resembles the olive. This is the shape of your lower section of medulla. In the center, draw your central canal. Get oriented. Now begin to separate the two white matters. In the midline, posterior median septum will be seen. Okay, so this here is your fasciculus gracilis. This here is your fasciculus cuneatus. To this we are going to now add the grey matter. So this is your nucleus gracilis. This is your nucleus cuneatus. This is your spinal tract nucleus of trigeminal nerve, and this here is the anterior grey matter. So this is the grey matter of your section. Everything else on the side is the white matter. Let's continue. Now we are drawing small sections. Okay, so we're going to keep on drawing sections of tracts. Okay, so one tract after the other. Let's draw the lateral vestibulospinal tract, olivospinal tract. From behind forward, let's draw the posterior spinocerebellar tract, the anterior spinocerebellar tract. At a deeper level now, draw the anterior spinothalamic tract, the spinotectal tract, the lateral spinothalamic tract. Deep to this lying here is your rubrospinal tract. Let's now draw the pyramids. So now your pyramids are in place. Now draw two lines, bands, which are crossing each other, indicating the motor decussation. Okay, so that's your motor decussation happening, fibers from pyramids crossing. Okay, that's a very simple diagram. Okay, let's now begin to color it. Okay, so give a very light shade to the white matter, a darker shade to the grey matter, color your spinothalamic, color your rubrospinal tract. I usually try to keep the same colors for all my sections because in my mind it becomes easier to understand later. Okay, now let's color the tracts, anterior and posterior spinocerebellar, the other two, that is lateral vestibulospinal and olivospinal. Now I'm going to color the pyramids, okay, and because the fibers are crossing, a part of the grey matter, the anterior grey horn, gets cut out to form the supraspinal nucleus there. So that should also be seen in your diagram. So that completes our diagram of the section at the level of medulla oblongata, motor decussation. Let's revise it once. So this is the section you have drawn. This is the anterior median fissure, posterior median sulcus, just for your orientation. So here's the white matter, fasciculus gracilis, fasciculus cuneatus, grey matter. This is nucleus gracilis. This is nucleus cuneatus. Okay. Now this is the spinal tract and nucleus of trigeminal nerve, lateral vestibulospinal, olivospinal, anterior and posterior spinocerebellar. Okay, here is the anterior spinothalamic, spinotectal, lateral spinothalamic, and finally the rubrospinal. Here you can see the pyramids and you can see how the fibers are crossing across the midline, cutting off a portion of the anterior grey horn, which is now called as supraspinal nucleus. So this is a section at the level of pyramidal decussation. Very easy to draw if you have some basics clear. Okay. Now drink some water, relax, and we'll go into the next section, Medulla Oblongata, at the level of sensory decussation. Come, take your color pencils and let's now begin to draw the next section. To draw the next section, draw one bumpity in my language, one more bumpity. So two such swellings, one on either side. Okay. Again, remember they represent the same thing, fasciculus gracilis, fasciculus cuneatus. In the front, you're going to draw two more swellings, of course the pyramids, and joining them again is a swelling that represents something like the olive. Again, you have the shape of the section at the level of sensory decussation. Add a central canal here, there. You have the basics in place. Now let's begin to add the grey matter. Nucleus gracilis, nucleus cuneatus, and complete the grey matter by surrounding the central canal. There, you have your grey matter. Let's add the pyramids in place now. Nice big pyramids. Behind that, you're going to draw such a small triangular section which is the medial lemniscus, which is formed after decussation of sensory fibers at this level. I will show you how that happens. At this moment, just draw the medial lemniscus. Behind that, a small little triangular section of the tectospinal tract, and further behind it, a rounded section of the medial longitudinal fasciculus. Now let's draw the spinal tract and spinal tract nucleus of trigeminal nerve, posterior median septum. The two separation of fasciculus gracilis and cuneatus are important part of your diagram, so make sure you do that. Let's now add the tracts. So this is posterior spinocerebellar, anterior spinocerebellum. Let's add two more, vestibulospinal, olivospinal, spino-olivary. Okay, so there you have your tracts in place. Okay, now at a deeper level, you have the spinotectal tract and the lateral spinothalamic tract. If you're drawing lateral spinothalamic, what should you draw at a deeper level? Of course, the rubrospinal tract. Okay, now what? Now let's begin to add nuclei to the grey matter. So here you are seeing the hypoglossal nerve nucleus, lateral to that the dorsal nucleus of vagus, and further lateral to it the nucleus of tractus solitarius. Okay, let's now draw the last thing, which is the accessory cuneate nucleus. Okay, there you have the accessory cuneate nucleus. Let's now color this one by one. The grey matter, the white matter, the tracts, the spinothalamic, the rubrospinal, the pyramidal, medial lemniscus, tectospinal, the medial longitudinal fasciculus, hypoglossal nerve nucleus, dorsal nucleus of vagus, nucleus of tractus solitarius, the accessory cuneate nucleus. Okay, so there you have a beautiful section at the level of sensory decussation, but we are not seeing the sensory decussation. We need to show that. Okay, so let's label this once and I'll show you how to show sensory decussation. So this is the section you have drawn. Let's label it quickly. This is the grey matter, the pyramid, the medial lemniscus, the tectospinal and medial longitudinal fasciculus, spinal tract and nucleus of trigeminal nerve, fasciculus gracilis, deep to which is nucleus gracilis, fasciculus cuneatus, deep to which is nucleus cuneatus. Here you have posterior and anterior spinocerebellar. In front of it, vestibulospinal, olivospinal, and spino-olivary. Here's your spinotectal and lateral spinothalamic. This is your rubrospinal. Okay, quite a lot happening on this. This is your hypoglossal nerve nucleus, dorsal nucleus of vagus, nucleus of tractus solitarius, and accessory cuneate nucleus. Most of the nuclei here are now labeled. Now what? Now let's imagine that fibers from fasciculus gracilis relayed in nucleus gracilis. Neurons from nucleus gracilis, their axons cross the midline to form the medial lemniscus. Similarly, fibers from fasciculus cuneatus relayed in nucleus cuneatus. Axons from the neuron in nucleus cuneatus crossed midline, and you can see that they are all collecting at the medial lemniscus, and that's how a medial lemniscus is formed. These blue crossing fibers that are shown on the screen are actually the sensory decussation that happens at this level. I hope you have understood this. If you are liking this lecture, do please like, share and subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon. Let's go to the third and the last diagram, medulla oblongata at the level of open medulla. Now students, believe me when I say that this is very often asked. This particular section is one of the most commonly asked sections, and therefore though very difficult to focus after such tough drawing, I expect you to keep focusing. Come on, let's begin our last diagram. This time we are going to start by drawing the floor of fourth ventricle. Remember, we are drawing open medulla. Slowly taking your time, draw 3 bumpities on either side of midline. These are the floor of fourth ventricle. Okay. In front, draw 1 which is pyramid, draw 2nd which is olive. Okay. And join these by the inferior cerebellar peduncle. We will be labeling, don't worry. So this is the basic shape of an open medulla. Observe that there will be no central canal because it is open medulla. It has opened out. There is no central canal visualized, which is actually the fourth ventricle itself. Now draw 2 vertical lines like this and draw 2 oblique lines like this and join them. You can see 2 sections on either side. Divide these by 3 horizontal lines like this. There you have your pyramid, you have your medial lemniscus, you have your tectospinal tract and medial longitudinal fasciculus. Ready. Okay. Now let's go dorsally and begin to draw nuclei there. Hypoglossal nucleus, nucleus intercalatus. Lateral to this now we are going to draw 2 more nuclei. 1, 2. The medial one is dorsal nucleus of vagus. The lateral one is nucleus of tractus solitarius. Let's draw 1 more nucleus here. This is the vestibular nucleus. 2 more nuclei here. These are the dorsal and ventral cochlear nuclei. Let's now draw this line indicating the inferior cerebellar peduncle, within which you will find the posterior spinocerebellar tract. Lying outside, refusing to go to cerebellum yet, is your anterior spinocerebellar tract. Let's now draw the nucleus ambiguus and behind it the inferior salivatory nucleus. Now here we are going to draw the spinal lemniscus. We now bring attention to the diagram showing the inferior olivary nuclear complex. The principal inferior olivary nucleus, the dorsal accessory olivary nucleus and the medial accessory olivary nucleus. Excellent. We're almost done now. Let's add these two, the spinal tract and nucleus of trigeminal nerve. And here is the pontobulbar body. That's a perfect section of open medulla. We can now move on to coloring it. Okay, so usually color the white matter in very light color. Okay, and then individual nuclei tracts to be colored separately. Like you can see the pyramid, medial lemniscus, tectospinal, medial longitudinal fasciculus. I am coloring them separately so that they can be well visualized. Okay, so these are the rest. We will be labeling them. Just make sure you pause the video and color everything nicely. So there you have the diagram. Finally, I need to color a little bit here in the front, which are the arcuate nuclei which are lying in front of the pyramid. Let's now revise this once. Come. This is the section you had drawn. This is the floor of fourth ventricle. Let's now begin to label it. This is the pyramid. the medial lemniscus, the tectospinal tract, the medial longitudinal fasciculus. The nuclei in the floor of fourth ventricle, hypoglossal nerve nucleus, nucleus intercalatus. Lateral to that, dorsal nucleus of vagus and nucleus of tractus solitarius. Now on to the sensory nuclei, vestibular nucleus and dorsal and ventral cochlear nuclei. In front of them, the inferior cerebellar peduncle through which the posterior spinocerebellar is going towards cerebellum. Lying outside is the anterior spinocerebellar here. This is the nucleus ambiguous along with inferior salivatory nucleus. Here is your spinal lemniscus carrying pain upwards to the thalamus. This is the inferior olivary nuclear complex made up of principal inferior olivary nucleus, dorsal and medial accessory olivary nuclei. This is your spinal tract nucleus of trigeminal nerve, and here's your pontobulbar body. What have we not labeled yet? The arcuate nuclei. Finally, you should add here a very lightly colored reticular formation. And that completes your diagram at the section at the level of open medulla. I hope you enjoyed this diagram process. If you try to understand it, it's actually quite simple. So, today's lecture taught you how to draw sections at the level of pyramidal decussation of medulla, sensory decussation and open medulla. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. If you did, please like, share and subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon. Do visit my website vbanatomy.com where you will get a lot of detailed lectures, downloadable notes, surgical anatomy videos, histodiagram videos, MCQs. Join me on the journey with VB Anatomy towards excellence in the subject of anatomy. Let me help you build a strong foundation for your medical career. Link is in the description section. Thank you, students. I'll see you in my next lecture. Bye.